Poland is a beautiful nation in Central Europe with rich history and deep culture. However, it only gained its independence in 1918, being completely off the map for 123 years. Yet many don't know about the time before it lost its independence. Poland was once in a commonwealth with Lithuania that, at its peak, took up the vast majority of Eastern Europe and the Baltic states. Despite its influence on Europe, it inevitably fell in a way that would forever change the world. The partitions of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth were a series of territorial invasions of Poland by Prussia, Russia, and Austria in the late 18th century caused by a want for territory and Poland's weakness and instability. This event is a turning point in history for causing the Great Immigration, which was the point in time in which many Poles fled the country. It also removed the largest state with freedom of religion in all of Europe, forcing many non-Christians to escape as well. Finally, it left an everlasting cultural impact on multiple areas in modern-day Poland. The partitions were greatly impactful in history as they spread Polish culture across the globe and forever changed Poland itself. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was started as a personal union in 1386 by the marriage of Queen Jadwiga of Poland and the Grand Duke of Lithuania Jagiełło, but the two states weren't an official union until 1569 when the Union of Lublin united them into one. The Commonwealth, at its peak, was one of the largest, most populous, and militarily successful nations in Europe, and the only state with freedom of religion and elected monarchies. Its military especially, known as the Winged Hussars, was greatly successful during its peak, utilizing advanced techniques to defeat enemies even at heavy disadvantages. Although it was among the most powerful nations in Europe, this power didn't last forever, and the Commonwealth quickly began internally falling apart around the late 17th century and early 18th century due to multiple factors. Firstly, a policy in their parliament known as Liberum Veto made all voting need to be unanimous for policies to pass, leading to heavy corruption from other countries hoping to sway their influence in Poland by bribing officials. Another factor to the Commonwealth's decline was Sweden's invasions of the country, the Deluge of 1655 and the invasion from 1701 to 1706. These two invasions devastated Poland and eventually led to a civil war in 1704 as many Poles switched to Sweden's side as they were losing greatly, further dividing the country. The first Polish partition occurred in 1772 when Prussia, Russia, and Austria were all hoping to gain territory. At the time, the King of Poland, Stanisław August Poniatowski, was in a relationship with Catherine the Great of Russia. She had been trying to create more Russian influence in Poland and had already taken control of a few territories in the east. With Poland's internal structural weakness and in an attempt to sway Austria away from an ongoing conflict between Turkey and Russia, the three states agreed to partition Poland, taking control of nearly a third of the country overall, which was about 211,000 square kilometers. Nearly 20 years after the first partition, Poland attempted to salvage what was left of the country. Under the rule of Stanisław August II Poniatowski, Poland was ushered into the era of Enlightenment. This led to the creation of the Commissioner of National Education, the first ministry of education in the world, and other reforms that were supposed to lead Poland to becoming a modern, constitutional monarchy. At the center of these reforms was the adoption of the Constitution of May 3, 1971. The Constitution abolished Liberum Veto and established freedom of religion and military duties. It is widely considered the first modern constitution in Europe. This constitution angered Russia as it made it more difficult for them to influence the Polish government. As a result of this, Russia, alongside Prussia, invaded Poland once more, taking around 300,000 square kilometers. The second partition enraged many Poles, including the officer Tadeusz Kościuszko, who gained a lot of military experience fighting for the US in the American Revolution. Upon hearing of the second partition, he returned to Poland and led a national uprising in 1794. However, Russia and Prussia once more intervened and decided on the final partition in 1795, which evenly divided the remainder of Poland amongst Russia, Prussia, and Austria. Tadeusz Kościuszko was exiled and returned to the United States. Because of his services during the Revolutionary War and his quest for Polish sovereignty, he was renowned as a global hero, with a statue of him being erected in front of the White House and having the tallest mountain in Australia named after him. For the 123 years that Poland was off the map, regaining independence became a priority for the Polish people. Soon, under General Dąbrowski, the Polish legions were formed and fought alongside Napoleon against the oppressor nation. During this time, Józef Wybicki wrote a song for the Polish legions in Italy. It starts with the lines, "Poland is not yet lost, so long as we are living, what foreign powers took from us, we'll get back with our sabers." This song was adapted as Poland's national anthem in 1926. Poles also tried to regain independence through a series of unsuccessful uprisings between 1830 and 1833. These uprisings were thwarted and led the oppressors to more aggressively try to assimilate Poles within their territories and eradicate Polish culture. Prussia began aggressively trying to Germanify ethnic Poles and eliminate the Polish upper class. Similar oppression occurred under Russian rule, with all formal education being carried out in Russian and Polish history and literature becoming illegal. Poles were also barred access to higher education, and Russia began persecuting writers, poets, artists, and anyone trying to preserve Polish culture. The partitions of Poland and the failed uprisings resulted in what is dubbed in Polish history as the Great Immigration, which led many Poles, especially those in the upper class, to be forced out of Polish lands. Many of these influential people had a long-lasting impact in different fields. Joseph Conrad, for example, immigrated to the United Kingdom, and his influential novel, The Heart of Darkness, shined a light on atrocities of colonialism in Africa. In France, Frédéric Chopin became one of the world's most influential composers, and Marie Curie Skłodowska's work in chemistry and physics led to the discovery of radium and polonium, revolutionizing science. The Great Immigration also had an impact on the United States. It is estimated that about 4 million people immigrated to the U.S. from Polish lands. Many settled predominantly in Chicago, Buffalo, Detroit, and New York. Another consequence of the elimination of Poland was religious and ethnic unrest in Eastern Europe. With Poland being the only European state with freedom of religion prior to the partitions, it acted as a safe haven for many groups, especially Jewish people. Once Poland lost its independence, many of these groups are also forced to immigrate. What is more, the partitions resulted in a power vacuum in Central Europe and took away many of the freedoms that these groups enjoyed, leading to long-term consequences for Eastern Europe. The absence of a progressive Polish state allowed outside powers to exert control over the areas, leading to a rise in anti-Semitism and other ethnic conflict. Though Poland regained its independence in 1918, the long-term effects of the partitions on Poland persist till today. Whereas both Prussia and Russia took an approach of trying to Germanify or Russify the Poles respectively, the Polish partition under Austrian rule was somewhat autonomous. Only in Austrian Poland from 1868 did Poles have freedom of education and cultural development. To this day, this part of Poland remains arguably the cultural center of the country, with the Jagiellonian University in Kraków being considered the most prestigious university in the country. Conversely, the Prussian partition became more industrialized. Prussian rule led to the development of a system of roads and trains. These networks led to faster economic development and a stronger connection between this part of Poland to Western Europe. Finally, the forced Russification in the Russian partition following the Polish uprisings led to a drastic drop of literacy rates in this region. At the same time, several Russian policies stalled the industrial development of this territory, leading to more ruralization. To this day, agriculture remains the number one field of work for Poles living in this part of the country. They also tend to vote more conservatively and hold strong nationalistic sentiments. The Polish partitions were a travesty that devastated Poland and its people. Their everlasting impact on both Poland and the world remains one of the most important events in all of history. No matter what happens to Poland, its people will forever remain determined for freedom and independence, because Poland shall never be lost.